So without further ado, I'd like to kick it over to Eagan. Eagan, take it away.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here. Thanks everybody for joining as well. I know AI is a hot topic, so I'm excited to share what I know. I'm not the be all end all expert, so excited to learn from you as well. Feel free to interject with questions, comments throughout. So yeah, today we're talking about how you can market smarter with AI. And these should give you some ideas you can use in your business or your company or your organization. And yeah, hopefully spark some good conversation and just the beginning here. Yeah. So I always like to think about leverage in business. And I think as entrepreneurs, this is what we really have to do. How do you move the lever over here and get a bigger outcome over there on the other side of the lever? So this was allegedly a quote from Archimedes, and that's what we want to be doing when it comes to AI, artificial intelligence, and any technology we're using in our businesses or in our companies or organizations, frankly. So let's talk about the four sources of leverage. This is a nod to Naval Ravikant, a very great entrepreneur in his own right and also an investor. And he talks about this in his book and in his podcast and articles. So there's four sources of leverage that we think about broadly of how people become wealthy. And that could also be creating value for organizations or for companies, right? So the one that a lot of people think about immediately is labor. And so I've been a business owner. This is year number 10 now. A lot of times people ask me, particularly people of, let's say, my parents' generation or older too, of how many employees do you have? And they're sort of getting a sense of how much leverage do you have? Like, are we talking about a 100-person shop? Is this just two or three people? What do you got going on? That's kind of what people are asking. They're sort of intuiting, well, if you're the boss, do you have a lot of people working for you? And that, for time immemorial, that was one of the major sources of leverage. That's how people got power and wealth. And now we'll see it's a little more complicated. There's more to it. There's other forms of leverage. Another one is capital. So maybe some of you on the call are in real estate or think about real estate as an asset. Oftentimes, the returns from real estate actually come from the leverage. And in that case, it's the debt, right? It's not, you don't own the house outright, you don't own the apartment building or the commercial piece of real estate or what have you. It's you're using a mortgage, you're using leverage, you're using debt, and then your equity is going up as part of that on the other side of the lever, right? So these are kind of the classics. If you look back, even let's say 120, 140 years of some of those big, what we now call the robber baron era of like who was really, really wealthy in the Carnegie, Rockefeller, JP Morgan sort of era. This covers a lot of it, right? This is a lot of what they were doing. And we've also seen media, right? So since their time, we've got, obviously they had newspaper, but we've had radio, TV, obviously we've got the internet now, magazines, like all sorts of leverage where Oprah records her show once and then shows it to millions of people. Or now we could say Joe Rogan records his podcast once and millions of people listen, right? So there's no difference if one person listens or 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or a million. You keep adding zeros, but it's no additional work that you did in creating that piece of media, right? And hopefully you're already thinking as a marketer, this is part of how we're getting leverage. When we go one to many, this is what we're doing. We might be creating ads. We might be writing a blog post. Might be creating a website. We might be sending email. A lot of those things we're doing in marketing, we're going one to many. We're making it once and we're reaching thousands of people on our email list or maybe thousands of people or whatever it is on a social media. Whatever it is, that's our thought of we're making this thing once and we're getting it out to people. And then the last one is automation and code. So there's sort of the physical world, or what is it, of atoms, and then the digital world of bits, right? And so in robotics, as people are setting up their factory floors, and let's say it's a factory making Teslas or whatever it is, a lot of that is, you know, automated value creation where they're creating whatever that product is, and the products are going down the line, and many of those people who are say workers, it was labor once upon a time when in the days of Henry Ford, right? Now it's as it goes down the line, it's like robots are adding value or doing the assembly or creation, right? And then in the world of bits, then a lot of the reason that people have wanted to become programmers and do coding, and I should say I used to work at Epic, so it's like I was a project manager there, but many people there were software developers, right? And the thought of how do I make six figures in the United States of America? The answer for the last 10, 20 years for many people was learn how to code, learn how to program. And so all four of these sources can be forms of leverage. And I think you can find they'll be even more powerful as you multiply them, right? So we could imagine the company Apple. They have a lot of employees, right? They have an insane amount of capital, both, actual stock equity, but then if they need to borrow money, they can borrow quite a bit, right? They have great media, they have great ads historically, like Steve Jobs and others who have developed these famous ads for Apple, right? And then obviously the automation and the code itself of, what can the products do? It could be the iPhones rolling off the line of all the automation that goes into creating those iPhones, but then it could be the software as well. What do we use on iOS, right? So what's nice now is many of these are being democratized, right? So you've probably heard the phrase vibe coding. We'll talk more about this, but now you don't necessarily need to know how to write the code line by line to actually create output on a computer. So we'll look at some examples that'll be important to us as marketers, websites, landing pages, doing designs, potentially custom apps. These are all now within reach for those of us mere mortals who don't necessarily know all the syntax and so on of the programming languages. What about faster media creation? Obviously, a lot of what we do as marketers, we're writing copy for a website, we're writing emails, we're writing ads, right? We need images and videos for those ads. We're writing posts on social media, and then we got to put it all together and create ads and run them. So a lot of these pieces are becoming much, we can do them much faster, and it's becoming more efficient to do this. Oftentimes, skipping that step of labor input of we needed people to do this before, and now AI is going to do a lot of these steps, as we'll see. Digital labor we've talked about physical labor, I should say. Digital labor, here's one thing I found. So going on, 10 years in business for myself, and then worked at Epic for 5 years before that. When you delegate, if you want good results, I think people get frustrated when they first start managing, they first start coaching people or hiring up and getting scale, like in a labor sort of sense, because the thought is, I'm the guy, they can't do it as well as I can, right? You've probably heard small business owners say this or entrepreneurs run into this of, I need another me. I need to duplicate myself. I have the know-how. I just need other people pulling the levers and creating the value, right? I'm here to tell you that when you take the time to delegate to your team in this fashion, you will get better results. That's certainly been my experience. So we think of the AI as another labor, another worker in the business, maybe multiple workers, right? And so when we delegate, as you'll see, I recommend you tell the AI what is your role, especially if we're using one of the big LLMs, and that could be, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whichever one we're using, right? We want to say, here's your role. So get in that digital mindset, right? Here's what you're doing. Here's what I want you to do. Here's why. That could be important or not for the AI, but I'm here to tell you if you have team members, freelancers, agencies, vendors, anybody you're working with, it always helps to start with why, right? Or at least include that in there. Inputs could be, here's the information you need. Here's the considerations. Here's the data we have. Take this into consideration, right? I always like to set up the success criteria. What counts as success? Will you know that this job is done? So remember that frustration that small business owners often run into or entrepreneurs run into, where it's like, they didn't do it as well. Like it would have saved me time to just do it myself. They didn't do it as well as I did. Well, guess what? You say ahead of time, here's what I'm looking for. Here's how you will know you're done and that it's done correctly. And it's nice also to say what to avoid. Here's the worst possible scenario. I don't want you to mess this up. Um, this is what we want to not have happen. Interestingly, I was in the world of atoms, not bits, when I first started working when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And I was in this shop one day. It was like a wood shop, and we were creating giant shelves for Best Buy. Okay. And the shop foreman came over and talked to me and said, hey, you're at the end of this process. So by the time the shelf gets to you, you guys put on this like lacquer finish or something, and then we're going to send it off to Best Buy. But I want you to know that, if you if you mess this up, if you break this cabinet, if you do anything with this shelf that damages it, like you've wasted hundreds and potentially thousands of hours of labor that have gone into it to get it to this point, right? So when you have high stakes, when you have something that could be messed up, it's good to clarify for your human workers and for increasingly your AI digital laborers, what do we absolutely not want to do? Because that negative success criteria can be just as important as the success criteria. Again, feel free to jump in with questions or comments here. Let's see an example. So people start in different places when they do marketing. I think it's good to think in terms of customer personas. Sometimes people say avatars, right? And the thought here is I know what our customers look like. I know who our clients are, but I want to sort of composite. I want to just like have an image of an actual person or an imagined composite person and a name, and I want to know some actual things about them. What's their role in the company? How old are they? What's their income? What's their education level? What do they really care about? What are the big stumbling points in their life as a consumer or, as a buyer if we're selling B2B, right? What are the things they absolutely hate that drive them crazy? What are the things that would like wave a magic wand? What would just make their life better? So when we do that pre-thinking, we can do better marketing no matter what the channel is. That could be offline, that could be better, TV, radio, billboard ads, or it could be online. That could be better Google ads, ads on Meta, that could be better emails and websites and so on, right? So that's why we think through this. So when we create a customer persona, I'm going to show an example of that delegation framework that I learned from managing my team as an agency owner, but I think applies just as well when we work with AI, such as the large language models. All right, here's an example. So we're going to do the customer persona, or we're going to have the AI help us. You ready? All right. So AI could be ChatGPT, whoever it is. You're whatever it is, whoever, whatever. I think we got to figure that one out. All right, you're an expert marketer. What are you doing? You're creating a customer persona for the assisted living industry who wants to fill their senior living units using digital marketing. I'll be using this example throughout the day here. I'm kind of pivoting and figuring out what's next in business for me. And so one of the thoughts is, do I niche into doing digital marketing just for senior living? So I'm thinking through that and testing that, and AI is helping me do it faster. So you'll see that example throughout the day. All right. So we're creating a customer persona for somebody in assisted living or senior living. And I'm going to be doing digital marketing for them to help them get residents. Okay. Why? We want to focus our marketing efforts to reach this group. Okay. Here are the inputs. All right. Here's what I already know. So maybe I've got some notes in a Google Doc or a Word document or something like that. Sometimes you can just put in links. If you're all connected to Google, that's great. I tend to just export everything as a PDF, or if it's a spreadsheet, I'll do a CSV and I'll just upload it. So if you're not already doing this, strongly, strongly recommend this. And by the way, in ChatGPT and Gemini and most of the LLM tools, you can create folders. And so you can just upload, pertinent, relevant, documentation or anything that's input or data that you want to use throughout. So I might just have a folder going inside ChatGPT, which I do. I'm starting a senior living marketing agency, and I'm just going to be adding to that so that when I go to ask it questions or brainstorm ideas, it's got all the context. All right, I'll keep going. What counts as success? We want to create a person with a name, picture, role, age, company, city, pain points, what makes them buy for their senior living company, okay? What do we want to avoid? I don't want anything overly generic. I don't want anything unhelpful in the marketing. That could be helpful or not. One last point I don't have on this slide, but I think is good, is before you set the LLM to work, you might say, "Tell me what else you'd need to complete this," or "What else would you need from me, to knock this out of the park?" It can be helpful to see what else is it looking for that it could use. All right, here we go. We're in Gemini. This is actually the free version. I did have some notes on a senior living customer persona based on clients I've served in the past, so I uploaded that. I had it in a Google Doc, exported to PDF. There it is. You can see I just put in the same info. Here's your role. Here's what you're doing. Here's why. Here's the inputs. Literally just pasted that in. I can include the Gemini chat or link to that in the notes if that's helpful. And here we go. Here's a profile. How about Olivia, inspired by somebody? She's the chief operating officer, the owner operator. She's 55 plus. She's at, assisted living company with 10 locations. They're based in the Midwest. They manage facilities in suburban and rural areas. She's a high school graduate, maybe an associate's or BA. And you could nail this down. You could get even more specific if you wanted. Hey, can we get an image, right? There we go. I thought this was kind of funny. If like we've got an old computer, she's running Bing because they're not tech savvy. Like this customer persona is not tech savvy. So I thought that was kind of clever. Interesting. All right, this is the one I always check in on. I give a lot of presentations, I give a lot of speeches. Hey, can you help me create the slide deck, right? There are tools like Gamma app that specifically do this. I've had mixed results with it, so I just wanted to see where are we at with Google Gemini these days. What's interesting is you say, "Can you create the Google slide deck for me?" It always tells me no, but if you switch and say, "Let's use Canvas," suddenly it can do it. So this is it. I will if I can do this, I will link to the to the Gemini. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I'm going to throw it in. Give me just a second. I'm going to put that in the chat. So we're going to have the Gemini example just so you can see it. And just for kicks, I'll share the slide deck that it came up with, which no slouch. And as we'll sort of say, let's see, I sent that to host and panelists. Whoops, sorry. I'll
I
send
got
it.
you, Egan. I shared with everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll do this
You're
correctly
welcome.
now. And now this is the slide deck. You're just you're dying. You can't even wait to see what does this thing look like. Here we go. Sharing in the chat just because. But like personal, the persona, the customer persona, overwhelmed Olivia. Did you deep dive into the decision maker, senior living digital marketing solutions? Here she is. Not the same image, it's pulled from Getty Images, but hey, whatever. 55 plus year veteran in the assisted living industry. She's the COO, practical background. She's in WALA. There's the industry association. Her goal wants to have care by filling units. They got multiple units. They're in rural areas. Somehow we're getting images too. So if any of these things, I think if we went back in time and said a computer can just do this now, it can create the first draft of your slide deck, and it's not the most amazing thing you've ever seen in your life, but it's workable. That's not bad. I was impressed by this, where there's some data. I had some data in my PDF about where do they want to be in terms of their occupancy. They really want to be over 85%. I've heard that from the industry. And so maybe they're break even down here, and maybe they're losing money down here. Even just to get an image of this is awesome. So if you're presenting to your boss or your client, this is not a bad start as far as it goes. Not tech savvy. Appreciate that. She uses Bing, Outlook, Yahoo. And this one came from the PDF I put in. They actually don't even have a CRM. They just attach an Excel and email it around because it's not a technical sort of industry. There's a whole staffing crisis. Like this is amazing. Like this is great. You could make some tweaks, present this to your boss, present this to your client. Here's the target. Here's where we want to get to. Here's some ideas on how do we overcome distrust? How do we get on a wait list? There we go. So at least to the first 80%, I think we're doing pretty darn well. I don't think that's bad at all. So literally AI made that. And now we have an idea. We're marketing to Olivia as we do our marketing. And thank you. We just switched to Canvas and apparently suddenly it can make Google Slides. Not too shabby. All right. So now we've got our customer persona. We know who we're speaking to. Let's talk about copywriting. Okay. Copywriting is any writing we're doing in marketing. All right. That could be on our website. That could be in the email subject line. That could be in the ad. That could be in a video that we do. That could be in the webinar. Anything is copywriting, pretty much. Here's your role. You're an expert direct response marketing copywriter. Okay. What you're doing, you being the AI, the LLM, you're writing punchy headlines, bullet points. This is going to be an on-demand webinar about senior living companies can fill their census occupancy using smart digital marketing. Why? I'm building an on-demand video funnel landing page. I could probably say also I want these clients. That's the idea, right? Here's the inputs. I'm going to link to the presentation so you can help me market it. What counts as success? I want 5 strong headlines. For the landing page, I want 10 bullet points, 5 call to action buttons, and include the social proof based on the presentation. So they know I've done this for other people. That's why you should listen to me, right? What to avoid? I don't want any long paragraph text. This is just going to be, potentially a sort of lead magnet idea of let's get them in and get them watching this on-demand webinar. So I don't want any long paragraph text. I don't want to get lost in the weeds. We make it punchy with headlines, bullet points. By the way, when you study copywriting, that's what everybody says is spend at least half your time or more on the headline because people stop reading after the headline. You've got to earn their attention to keep going. So if we're only going to hit on a few things, we're going to have a really strong headline that speaks to them as a customer persona, right? Or as an actual customer or client. We're going to speak to the pain points, right? We're going to have a couple bullet points. We're going to have a call to action. We're going to have some social proof. That's it. Like, think that simply. Stop acting like your English teacher is going to grade your paper. Like, we want to have something short and sweet. All right, so it's got some bullet points. It goes a little, this is more than I like to see, where it's got the bolded bullet points and then it's got, more after that. That's totally fine. But I just said, give me your 5 best. Here you go. So it came up with permutations. I'm skipping that part so you don't have to see it, but it's just like, give me your best ones. And personally, doing direct response digital marketing for 10 years, I think I could do better. So I'm going to tweak some of these. That's totally fine. All right. We're getting to the part that I'm the most excited about. So I hope you're pumped too. Let me just, let me just talk about this a little bit. Coming up on 10 years as a digital marketer, The thing that has always been the thorn in my side, or just takes way too long, in my opinion, I also have ADHD, so I'm very impatient, is I want landing pages and websites yesterday. So if I'm running Google ads, if I'm running Facebook and Instagram ads, if I'm driving traffic, I'm running YouTube ads, whatever it is, I need a page oftentimes to send people to, right? And let me tell you, the pages on a client website, on your website, on my website, they're not good enough. Okay. When someone clicks an ad, they need to see something that's perfectly relevant to what they're doing. I don't want a menu at the top for them to get lost. I don't want a bunch of links to click. I want them to have one blessed thing to do on that landing page. So if you forget everything else I tell you, listen to this. This is 10 years of experience where this is a game changer. This can be multi-hundred or even more than 1,000% increase on you're driving traffic just to a website, right? And it's not converting, but suddenly you 3, 4, 5, 10x your conversion rate. Now you're getting results. Why is this a problem? This takes forever. We need to get a designer, right? We got to get a developer. We have to wrestle with WordPress or HubSpot or whatever the system is. So this is just a godsend, okay? You've probably heard about vibe coding, right? Here are some apps that are some are on the technical end, some are less technical. But that thing I'm talking about of how do you get leverage? You do something once and then it's providing value over and over again, right? Well, we used to have to know HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Maybe if we had to get in the back end of WordPress, we were wrestling with PHP, right? It's like there was all these barriers of you had to be a programmer to get anything done, and especially in WordPress, as soon as there's anything under the hood, it's like, oh boy, we're looking at code, here we go. So now we're just going to type in what we need, and I'll show later, we may even just speak in what we need, and it's going to create it. So if you've not played with these tools, I'm not even super partial to any. I think they're all amazing, and you could find the one that's awesome for you. I've been really impressed by Replit, Lovable, Base 44. I just haven't spent as much time on the others, but I've built landing pages and websites with each of these, and just wow. Okay, so here's just Lovable. I also try to learn from the best companies in the world of how simple are they making the conversion path. And so as you use these tools, you'll see, yes, you have to create a login and you have to like create an account, but pretty much right away, it's giving you a familiar prompt, just like you see in ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, right? And here we go, and we just put in the prompt, which maybe the prompt itself, ChatGPT or Gemini helped us generate, right? And now we're going to create something. Here's the one I've been using, and it's again not saying it's the best of all or anything like that. It's just like I've been blown away by it, and now I'm into it, and so I'm kind of all in on Replit for the moment. But play around with them, use whichever you want. All right, are you ready? Roll. You're an expert digital marketer and landing page designer. What you're doing, designing and developing a high converting marketing landing page for an on-demand webinar called Proven Ways to Grow Your Assisted Living Resident Occupancy and Fill Your Staff Openings. That's the most important part, right? Why? Because I want leads for my senior living PPC, pay-per-click, or Google ad service business. Inputs, I'm linking to the presentation I'll be giving so you can help me market it. What counts as success? We want simple, clean, modern design with a strong headline. I want 5 bullet points, a prominent call to action button. Include the social proof in my presentation. I have multiple clients giving quotes and things like that. And when people complete the form, they should be redirected to a page to watch the video right away. What to avoid? Ugly design, long paragraph text, anything that doesn't work. One thing that was interesting at Epic, I don't know if it was one of the 10 commandments or something they had on the wall, but it was just like software must work, which seems sort of obvious to us now. But the founder, Judy, would talk about back in the day, man, 70s, 80s, 90s, it wasn't taken for granted that this enterprise software worked all the time. Not saying anything about Epic, but just like their competitors and the space and kind of like where software was at in those days, let's say the 90s and maybe into the 2000s. So doesn't hurt to say, hey, AI, when you build me something, I want to make sure it works. All right. Here's the example prompt. So you notice I just pasted it right in. This is in Replit. You can see I've got replit.com. I've kind of got my user, and then I've got different apps inside. So when you go to build a landing page or a website, it's like you're building an app. These are technically app builders, right? So I paste all that in and I give them the context, right, including my presentation. It says, great. It analyzes it. Sounds good. Now, remember that thing about what else do you need to know? What else would you need to succeed? What I absolutely love about this tool and tools like this is it'll say, hey, what about this, this, and this? Hey, can you give me the URL? Uh, on the form, I'm assuming you just want name, email, phone, anything else? What should I do with the leads? Put them in the database and send them a notification or both? And then do we auto send them a confirmation to watch as well? So this is going to be an on-demand webinar. It's not like they have to show up at a certain time. It's just an on-demand video training, which, by the way, if you're in B2B selling services to other businesses or organizations, why would you not have on-demand video trainings? I'm confused at any business that does not do this because it's a way to for them to for people to see you just like you're seeing me now, spend time with me, hear us talk about our expertise, here's some case studies, like here's how you do, here's what you need to do. And then suddenly you've got 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour or more where they've like bought into your worldview and your expertise and seen some of your results, and then they can book time with you. So that it's a no-brainer to improve your marketing. All right. Yep. Here's the link. Let's say company name. I want to store the database as always. So thinking in WordPress terms, this would be like gravity forms or something, right? It's like I need a form to work. And by the way, save all those form submissions and let people know, hey, yes, you signed up and here's the link, right? Yeah, I want the link to go to the watch page and not the YouTube video, by the way. Again, here's success criteria that I didn't even necessarily think of. And it's asking me for specifics. It goes do 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 and it's working, working, working. And you got to give it some time. Remember, if you did, like, we have to even get back to it of what if we did this from scratch? What if it were 1995 or 98 or 2005 again, and you had to pay a programmer to do all this? We're so many layers of abstraction up now in the technical world that it's like we've forgotten that WordPress is built on this like open source infrastructure, and people have already made page builders and form, plugins and on and on and on, right? It's like we're leveraging the build that people have already done in the past. When we're doing this, we're building it from scratch, man. It's going in and actually writing the code. And if you want, you can actually see the files. It comes back. It says, yep, it's all complete. Here's the landing page. Here's the URL, just like you asked. Here's kind of some highlights. Here's the watch page, and it has an embedded YouTube video. And don't worry, on the back end, I've got all this set up. So I'm not able to hear your reactions or see you guys, but I hope you're getting stoked about this. One other thing to say, this cost me $5.18. Once again, let's think about if I had to pay a programmer to build this and custom code the JavaScript, um, like how much would that cost? How much does a programmer cost per hour? I would have to find them. Maybe I could go on a marketplace like Fiverr or Upwork, right? I would have to basically give all these same prompts. How long would it take and how much would it cost me? So how much faster and cheaper are we getting? $5 is a screaming deal for custom development. Here she is, folks. I'll let you see it for yourself. I'll try to put this in the chat once again. Bear with me. We'll copy that. I got to stop sharing for a hot sec. You can see it if you want. Notice that if you opt into this, you're going to be on my list for senior marketing stuff, so you don't necessarily have to opt in, but I'll show it to you, right? I just want you to see this. Like, is it the most gorgeous thing of all time? Maybe not. Let's see. Here we go. But like, even in HubSpot, even in WordPress, even in Wix or Squarespace, how long would this have taken us to set up, right? Versus I could kind of delegate just to Replit. It went off and build it. I could have some feedback. I could say, I don't want this blue. I want the call to action button to stand out. But like, basically, we're here. People submit the form, and there we go. This is the embedded YouTube video. It even knew schedule a call with me. Maybe I would embed my calendar there. It's like you can tweak it, but like this is unbelievable. Just get me a lead magnet going. Just get me an on-demand webinar going. Okay. I can't even, I'm beside myself. I got to take a drink of water. Like I used to pay $300 a month for ClickFunnels, and it would take me days, weeks, months to like build proper funnels because guess what else? We need all the emails sending and just working, okay? And maybe I could use Webinar Jam and special tools and it would handle some of this. But here we go. I did some pre-setup that I did not share here. There's another tool called Resend. As you may have noticed as a marketer, it's complicated and difficult to get in the inbox anymore, okay? And if you fill this out and test it, this may go to your spam and you may have to say not spam, which would help my deliverability, please, right? But it's like this is all set up. I did not even write this. I did not design this. You can tell because it misspelled my name, but hey, man, we can't have it perfect. I can say, hey, can you spell my name right? And like, so this is what the user received. And yes, I tested the link and it worked. It goes right to the watch page. And this is what I received as the admin. Hey, this guy Eagan signed up. So that's why there's an Eagan spelled correctly and an Eagan spelled incorrectly. One's marketing to the other. Okay. So did some pre-work, got resend going because it handles email deliverability and so on much better than just Replit. So that was done out of sight of you. But the fact that that was already set up once, I'm beside myself, guys. Like this funnel is ready to rock, and I could be sending traffic to it. What about the back end? This is always a concern. Every now and then, clients would be using WordPress but not Gravity Forms, and they'd say, "Whoops, we weren't getting our email, or the system went down. We got a bunch of leads. Where'd they go?" And sometimes the answer was they didn't go anywhere. There's no database of the leads. Our whole point of our business is to get business, and yet like we missed some of those leads. And I've been there on WordPress. It happens. I've seen WordPress updates that stopped Gravity Forms or the other form from working. It's just like on and on and on. Guys, I'm an SEO consultant. I have been for a decade. I've been like from the high heavens, like you got to use WordPress, right? I think the days are nigh on over if they're not over right now because here it all is. It's way faster, it's way better, and we can skip all that stuff. I didn't even show I don't have a screenshot. You can run GT metrics or Google Page Speed Insights on this. These will load in under a second. It's unbelievable. Speaking of,
Hey,
okay,
Egan, before we go on, we did have a question from Heather. Where are you uploading it to, and how is it live? Referring to the website that or the landing page that you were just showing.
thanks. Show Replit. All right, so this is Replit. I'm not on the PowerPoint anymore. I'm not on Google Slide anymore. So this is like my prompts on the side, right? Let's go back into Replit if we can. I got a couple different apps. So I'm like testing different apps too. I'm like making one that helps me, track time and block my time on my to-do list, right? This one's going to help me with personal finance spending, kind of like mint.com. So you can like build your own apps now, just FYI. Like it's incredible. So I'm inside the Silverpath site, and somewhere here in publishing is domains. So one thing I like about Replit and tools like it is it gives you this one out of the gates. So let's look at that. Silver Path. Oh, it actually redirects right now. I probably set up that redirect, so never mind. I promise I'm going to answer the question. So by default, it'll give you .replit.app. It'll put your app on a subdomain of replit.app. Make sense? And then if you want, you can purchase a domain. I did in this example, silverpathmarketing.com through Namecheap. I connected it, and that's how I'm able to deploy to an actual live URL. But even if I had not done this, I could share this link with you guys. And if I didn't set up the redirect, it would go. So notice you can buy your domain, you can connect a domain. Hope that all makes sense. So, and then the question was, where is this hosted? This is hosted in the cloud. So my understanding is if you use Claude Code, which say my brother does, he's a programmer, he then has to like there's like a separate tool. It's like that then goes to GitHub. You've got to like upload that and so on. Like all that lives somewhere else. Some of these modern AI vibe coding tools, it's all in here. The code's in here. If I were smarter, I could probably even show you some of this. Here's the analytics, there's the logs. There's some way you can upload to Git. So it's like you can even like see some of this code if you want it. It's like it all lives in here. You can see the code. So it's like you could take it out and then hand it to a developer and they could mess with it too. So the code, I'm not even gonna, here we go, files, find a file. It's like it's creating actual files like as to an FTP and so on. So I get out of my depth pretty quickly there, but hopefully that answers that where it's living in the tool and then it's able to deploy it to a live URL, which to me is why this is mind blowing, where it's just like from I need a page or I need a website to that darn thing is published. I'm hoping if you're on the other side of the screen, like you've experienced how that takes weeks and months when like you just want to do that in a day. And maybe if you have Wix or Squarespace, you can do it on your own and you're a designer, but that's kind of the thought. Yeah. Love the enthusiasm. All right. Love it. Where's it uploading to? Yep, that's it. That's it. All right, I'm going to keep on trucking. Feel free to ask other questions. Okay, so that's a landing page. That's like getting ready for an ad campaign. I could run paid traffic to that page. Can we just build a website with AI? What do you guys think? I'm taking a drink of water. think it's possible. Yes. Somebody's asking about keeping data private. Yeah. Hit me up about that again at the end here. That's a good question. Yes, I think AI websites can be done. So if you go to silverpathmarketing.com, you can see what I've drafted up. It's not the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen in your life. It's not award winning. It's not, is it better than a professional would make it, in weeks and so on? Probably not. Is it workable? I think so. So I was testing, what about a pay for performance, senior living kind of thing? It just like I gave it a prompt, like ChatGPT helped me give it a prompt of here's what I want, here's the customer persona, here's my offer, and it's just coming up with this. And I spent, so 15 minutes was the rough bones of this. Maybe within an hour, I was going back and forth saying, change this, change that. Some details are wrong. I like that the call to action button is its own color and nothing, nothing prominent is exactly quite like that. Like, I like it. Is it the great, it needs more, that's fine, but it works, man. Like I could send traffic here. And importantly, because I set up resend, I can get leads through this thing now. I could, okay? And I was like, what about a blog? WordPress is all about the blog. I played with it a little bit. Hey man, we got a blog now. And I've even got like an admin side that's, a very simplified, stripped down content management system. And here we go. So just to see that it's possible, it is possible. Silverbathmarketing.com. Website in 1 to 2 hours. And a couple other things to say about that is what if, okay, it gives me this, and then I just want to wordsmith, I want to tweak the headline, I want to move things around a little bit. Somewhere in there in Replit, I was able to get like a drag and drop looking thing. It looks like Squarespace or Wix or a page builder in WordPress. So it can do the first draft. It's good to just publish it. So you actually publish the live code. So you have like version control where you're drafting things, and when you're ready, you hit publish, and there you go. And then it's live, right? And then at some point, it doesn't make sense to keep paying a quarter or 50 cents or 75 cents to describe what you want it to change, and then it changes it. Maybe you're just going in and kind of using its very rudimentary page builder. Again, we're not building the page, we're more like tweaking, editing the page. So yeah, I think it could be done. I'm rolling with it. Now, some caveats. AI websites. So the vibe coding tools vary how technical they are. So this thing I'm talking about with resend, I was pulling what little remains of my hair out because the forms weren't working in Replit, right? So I kind of had to go down a YouTube rabbit hole and like learn how to set up resend. So resend, getting that form submission infrastructure and the database working, that probably took me longer than building the website itself. But now that it's working, I can just build funnels. And by the way, for that webinar funnel, it's got its own database. So I can just see who signed up for the webinar. It's awesome. Technical SEO, this remains a big question. This is why SEO consultants may not love this or jump full bore into this. I'm going to right click, I'm in Chrome. I'm going to go view page source. I've even added some things here, but this is it. There's not a lot of HTML on the page. I've got, maybe the title, the SEO title, maybe the description, but a lot of that content on the page, there is no HTML. And I added schema because I want to like juice the search engine with that basically. But like most of the content on the page is not crawlable HTML. So is there a downside with SEO? There really could be. Now, you have the same problem if you're using Wix, or I imagine Webflow has the same issue. So a lot of these modern tools have JavaScript, and then they're like dynamically like serving content to the browser. So Google maintains they can understand JavaScript websites. Remains to be seen, is that as good as, say, we actually have the HTML that's crawlable by Google and Bing? I don't know. Well, are there other technical SEO issues? There could be. And then just unknown unknowns. The big thing I wonder about is like downtime. So supposedly it's going to deploy that site there, but you'll often see when you're in Replit, it's like resetting the server. And I have no idea what uptime looks like on this thing. Of it's basically it's hosting the code and it's hosting the website. And basically I just have the domain is registered, a Namecheap or another tool. So a lot of unclear things, but in terms of rapid iteration, I need a website now. I need a website today. I need a website this morning. I need a landing page and a funnel built right now for an ad campaign I'm getting going. No contest, man. So I think on the landing page front for campaigns, I'm using this all day long. And then for websites, I'm testing it out. Questions about AI websites. I used Replit. I've used Lovable. I've used Base 44. I've tried the others. All of them blew me away in different ways. I've always kind of been there's different types of marketers. Some people are design heavy. Some people are analysis, analytical heavy, left brain, right brain. As an SEO and PPC guy, paid and organic search or organic and paid search, I'm kind of on that side where I'm doing analysis, and people regularly tell me like, Egan, that web page you designed is really ugly. Like you should really just pay someone else to do that. And so normally that's what I would do, right? So I love the ability to quickly, I want to write headlines, bullet points, call to action, social proof, maybe a couple paragraphs, right? But I don't even want to think about the design. I don't care that much. I want leads. My clients want leads and sales. We're not trying to win beauty awards here. So that's my thought. All right, I'll keep moving here. Let me know if you have other questions. Ad creation. I wanted to have a whole section about so different types of ads. So there are Google display ads, which none of us are super excited about, so I'll just talk through it. There's a tool called adcreative.ai. There's others like it where you describe, I've got a senior living webinar or digital marketing for senior living webinar. Here's how to fill your occupancy. Design me the different permutations. So if you read, the New York Times or you look at sports or you're on a website and you see ads and sometimes they're tall, sometimes they're lengthy, sometimes they're just kind of off square or rectangular. Generating those is a total pain. And so for years, I've like relied on graphic designers and it just takes way too long and it's never that good, or it is good but it's too expensive and takes too long. It makes me nuts. And so always looking for a tool and still playing around with those where you can just kind of put in, here's my logo, here's the brand guidelines, here's what I want the call to action or the headline to be, and just design me all the permutations. And your results may vary, but it's fast and it's something I can get running on Google Display Network. I'll keep talking through others here. Paid search. This is kind of a little more in my bailiwick, like running pay-per-click search ads on Google and sometimes on Bing. Let's talk through some of the steps. So the first step is just researching keywords. What does the client do, or what does the business do, right? How might people Google or Bing? How might they search for these terms, right? And then once I know, I may need to categorize those, right? And then from there, I want to write the ads. And then once the ads are running, we have to analyze them and see how they're doing and then optimize them over time. So at each step here, I just want to say this has been a godsend. Like this has been absolutely awesome. Where I'll follow that same formula. Like here's how I delegate, right? I'm looking for keyword research. Here's the website. Here's some of their competitors. What are the keywords I should think about? Maybe I'll go to Google or a paid tool and get some keyword research data, and I'll say, help me make sense of this, categorize this, put these together. Which one should I target? Like basically help me set up the campaign structure. What should the ad groups be inside the campaign? What should the ads be? Speaking of the ads, can you just write the ads for me? Yes, it can. Sometimes I got to go back and forth and say, hey, you're going by the old guidelines. This one, the max is 120 characters or whatever it is on the description. You got to make it shorter. I think it's 90 characters for that, right? So I think you've got 30 or so for the headline and then 90 for the descriptions, and that counts spaces. And it's like, can't do any more. Oh, and please don't use M dashes. That's what I want you to avoid. Don't use exclamation points because Google will cancel it. So it's like you're going back and forth and you're kind of learning what works, and you can get a little template and just say, here's the ads, here we go. Okay. Once your ads are up and running, what I've found is these days, Google will show your ads for all kinds of queries that you did not want to show it for. And there was, phrase match, there was exact match. You could say, I'm just marketing, this ebook store or this e-bike store. I don't want to show up for all these other things about a Trek bicycle and so on. But it's like, it's now matching on so many synonyms, and phrase match and exact match means nothing. So long story short, adding those negative keywords becomes a lot of work. So reviewing search terms, adding negative keywords and saying, I don't want to pay for these clicks. This was taking me and my team hours and hours and hours every single week. This is like what we were doing as a PPC company, right? So what I now do is I'll download the search terms. I'll go into Google Ads. I'll look at the report, download the CSV, upload it to ChatGPT, and I'll say, here's all the ones I don't want to pay for. I don't want to pay for branded. I don't want to pay for competitor. I don't want to pay for anything related to this that is not, is not actually what we want to pay for. And it can go through and do analysis. So if you haven't used AI or an LLM for analysis, I recommend it. Upload a spreadsheet, tell it what columns to add, tell it what analysis to do so that you can look at it again and filter, and then give it a column where it tells you why it made that decision. And so this is not going to be as good as you going through all 3,500 search terms for the week or the month, but you're going to catch a lot of them very, very quickly. And so this can speed you up considerably. All right, paid. So one last thing on that. I also go back and forth about using Google Ads Editor. So rather than in the browser, I go to ads.google.com to run my Google Ads. There's like a desktop tool, right? An app where you connect your Google Ads account and then you can import and edit your ads. And so once you have a template, so if you're running a lot of Google Ads like I am, right, as a consultant, as an agency owner, I've got my templates ready. ChatGPT writes the ads. If I'm just a normal person, I'm copying those and manually pasting them into Google Ads. But if I'm sophisticated enough where I can use the Google Ads editor and I've got a template I can use, it can actually create the upload files. So that's still finicky. Google Ads editor throws up a lot of errors, but it's possible to have ChatGPT help you with keywords, set the structure, write the ads, and then give you a CSV to at least get everything uploaded into your account, and then you tweak it from there. So it's pretty amazing. Play with spreadsheets, play with analysis, and tell it what kind of analysis you want it to do. Add a couple columns, and here's what each column is going to be for. All right, paid social media ads. This is Meta ads, TikTok ads, etc. Remember faster media creation? When we are doing marketing, we're going one to many. A salesperson is having, a one-to-one conversation with a potential, client or customer, but a marketing person, we're behind the computer or we're in the agency or we're creating things that lots of people are going to see or hear, right? So that could be, like we said, website copy, emails, ads, and so on, right? So this is a major area. Obviously, it can help with the copy. We've seen how it can write ads, or we know that it can write ads, right? What about creating the actual visuals? So I don't have any particular tie to any tool on this. This is just one I was looking at. But if you do some research and this user-generated content UGC is hot, where it's like somebody's on TikTok and they're showing you the product, and here it is. You can watch some of these videos and they'll blow you away. So it's an actor that is basically uploaded into the tool, and it sort of knows their face and their voice, and you're giving it a script, bullet points. Here's what they do. I'm putting the cream on the face, like, and you're telling the actor what to say and what to do, and it's unbelievable. So if this is something you do where you run a lot of, where you do a lot of, it could be organic social, but I'm thinking particularly for paid social, it could be worth it. Of time-wise, you had to like hire an actor to physically do this, and those days are going away. Okay, search engine optimization, SEO. This is kind of what I've hung my hat on for many years. This is a lot of what a lot of people know me for. I had to think about this. I have a whole other presentation all about this. So, Andy and Co., if you guys want to have me back and just talk about SEO in the age of AI, I've got a presentation all ready to go there. But let's just talk through some ideas similar to paid search. Can help us with keyword research. What keywords should we be targeting? Titles and descriptions. Those are always annoying, especially if we have a huge website, right? How about just writing the copy that goes on the page? Blog posts. I'm happy to answer questions and talk more about this. My last agency, we were writing blog posts with AI with various tools, particularly one called Surfer, which will give you feedback, very in-depth feedback on what keywords to use and at what depth and so on. And it does analysis on, I'm targeting this phrase. Let's say it's SEO for senior living, right? And I write a blog post about that. It's going to say, here's what the top 10 results on Google have. Here's what you're missing. Some of them are 2,000 words. Your little thing's only 550 words. So you got to bulk it up. And here's what else you talk about. So it can help you write the drafts. This is Surfer SEO, or it could help you upgrade what you already have. So improving old blog posts, troubleshooting technical SEO issues. This has come up a lot. If you're an SEO agency owner like me, like this comes up all the time. Brainstorming link building ideas. That's always a hard one. And then what about just analysis? Like go to Google Analytics, go to Google Search Console, which has your SEO data, download it, get the CSVs, give it to your LLM, and tell it what kind of analysis you want it to do. I will say So there's search engine optimization, and then there's conversion rate optimization, which is help me make my website better, help me make the landing pages better. You could do a similar thing where you're even putting in your URL, you're saying, how do I get more conversions out of this? It will give you ideas. So I don't have a slide about that, but that is always a good one. I know we're coming up on time. I only have a few left here. Connecting systems. So it used to be all about Zapier. So let's say you got WordPress and a Gravity form comes in, that's a lead. Now you want that to go to your CRM. So time was you would use Zapier, and like the letters API are in there. That's why it's called that. Application programming interface. This is how you get tools to talk to each other. So somebody fills out a form on the website, right? Um, Send that into HubSpot, send that into Microsoft CRM, send that wherever that needs to go. That's what Zapier did for years. It was awesome. Like it's a great tool. There's other ones like it, right? But what has now been added with some of these tools, I have all, yeah, these are just a few. There's many others, right? Is there's a level of judgment that they didn't have before. So before there were LLMs, before there was ChatGPT, Zapier could say, all right, here's the name, phone number, email. We're going to map that in and just send that over, and that's going to go into HubSpot, right? But what we can do now, and some of the experimentation I've done with Make.com and with Zapier is connect up your Gmail, connect up your Outlook, right? And say, help me triage my email, right? And here are the types of emails I get. And I want you to just add tags, add labels, so I know which one's a cold pitch, which one's a marketing pitch, right? Which one's an email from a member of my team? That's pretty easy, right? What's an email from a client, right? Just help me make sense of my inbox, and it could actually, put color labels on those. And that was a pretty good system for a while too. So it's endless what you could do here. One thing I've often thought about is there's so much spam now of even when you have a reCAPTCHA on your website, right? You're just junk coming in. And so maybe you don't want things to go directly into the CRM. You want to kind of cull it first, or you want to winnow it out. And that's what we've had multiple clients tell me. You can add this level of judgment where you describe, here's what spam looks like filter these out and don't send these on into HubSpot. And if you're nervous about we're going to miss leads and they don't go in the CRM, what you do is like a beta system where you're just testing. And that's what I did kind of with the email as well, right? I just want to see labels. Just help me see what you understand, AI. And then when it's 85, 90, 95% good enough, maybe I'm ready to turn it on. And then we go to it's actually running, it's actually making decisions. But before it was like, okay, if it has my domain at the end, then I guess it's a team member. If it has this list of domains, I guess it's one of my clients, but maybe I forget to update that list. And then I miss an email from a client versus this is actually going to read your email, analyze the content of it, or read the form submission, analyze it, and make a determination. Is this a qualified lead? Should this go in the CRM? A few other quick things. I got it. If you guys have not used Whisperflow, dude, I'm telling you, let's see if I can demo it. So here I am. I'm in Google Slides and I'm hitting Control Windows on PC. Hey guys, I'm in my presentation. How's it going? What do you think of it? There it is. So it's like you basically don't need to type anymore. See that? So, a lot of the AI tools, the LLMs have audio right in there if you can speak to it. My wife tells me I'm a mumbler. Like the AI tools don't always seem to understand. Whisperflow understands me, man. So I've got that hooked up, and you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, and you can kind of move away from typing if you want to. So just a public service announcement on that. If you have meetings, which you probably do if you're a modern knowledge worker, make sure you've got meeting recordings. That could be, was it Otter AI? That could be Fathom. Whatever you're using is fine. And then for a true pro tip is use a tool like Zapier. If you find that the next steps that Fathom or Otter or whatever is capturing are pretty good, you can integrate it where you connect it. You say Zapier, listen to Fathom AI, and just put those notes and put them right into Google Doc or put them right into a Word doc in this folder, right? So you could be saving your notes somewhere, and you could potentially be extracting out the next steps. If you think those are good, put them right into Trello, put them right into ClickUp, put them right into your project management system. If you think they're good enough for rock and roll, where it's like, we had a meeting, we talked, there's some next steps. There's always this thing of like, what did we talk about last time? Who has to do this and by when? Just automatically send them in there potentially. And then writing a book, I finally, after many, many years, I finally published a book. I will have this is the Senior Living Marketing Playbook. Obviously, I'm looking at potentially niching into that or having more clients in that space. But I'm also working on one that I will share with you guys if you're interested. That's just your ultimate guide to digital marketing. And so watch for that one soon. This is a physical book. I've got my copies right here, man. It's a good feeling after so many years to like finally have a book. And let me tell you, could not have done it without ChatGPT, right? Of I've got the webinar, help me turn the webinar into blog posts, help me turn the blog posts into a book. Just awesome. So if you've been thinking you want to write a book, have the LLM help you. Like make sure it's your voice, make sure you're adding your touch, but it'll speed you up so much. Quick reflections. I know we're at time. Where do humans fit? AIs are doing a lot. It's going to do more and more. I think it's an open question. I think maybe our job is to figure out what are the parts that we do. And everything I talked about today, it's going to be made better if you have a little bit of judgment and you're adding that next 20%, right? Of give me 80% of the way there, write that email marketing campaign. But I know these idiosyncratic things I didn't even remember to tell the LLM, so I put those in. All right, somehow we made it. Questions, let me know. Also,
Woohoo.
I do have some freebies. We got the slide deck. We've got the ebook I mentioned. There's a Calendly link if you want to book time with me. I just built this literally right before. So if you go to silverpathmarketing.com/market smarter AI, I'll put that in the chat. You can sign up and AI will send you those things, my book, the slides, and a chance to meet with me if you'd like. Thanks so much.
Eagan, thank you so much for just such a wealth of information. So many great positive comments coming in from folks here. We do have a couple moments here for a few questions. I think the first one that came a little bit earlier in the presentation from BP. Can you give some thoughts on keeping your data private? I know we've got a couple questions, Eagan, here. I'm sure it's a longer reply maybe, but any insights for BP?
Yeah. So back to questions. So, browsers were set up for people to use them. Now that there are AI browsers like Comet and others, there have been some leaks where websites were able to extract from the AI data that you, the user, didn't want your AI giving to the website publisher. So this is a brave new world of security on that respect in that respect. So that is very much an open question on these AI websites of what does it know? Can someone do the live chat or something and somehow query your system for information they shouldn't have? I think that does merit caution. And if you're building apps, some people are using these tools like Replit. They build an app, they put it in the App Store, and all kinds of liability. Like they could be getting sued for all kinds of things because it doesn't have proper security behind it. So yes, exercise caution. This is all cutting and bleeding edge stuff. So thank you. Good reminder.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. I know there's a couple more here. Egan, I know we'll be sending out some resources and links and stuff. So if you do have some more questions, I know he's made himself available to go ahead and follow up. A couple last minute housekeeping items. I know there was a couple comments that came in or questions. This event is being recorded. Will be shared to the email address in which you used to register. We like to get those out within 1 to 2 days, so keep an eye out for that. And then again, if you really like this presentation, we would really appreciate your feedback. You should have received a link in the email address for a post-event survey. Just takes a couple moments to fill out. Would really appreciate any insights that you have as well there too. But thanks again, Eagan. Again, such a wealth of information in just a short amount of time. I know that a lot of the guests were really receptive to that. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us here at DreamBank. We really much appreciate it. And with that being said, we will go ahead and cap it there, and we will see you all next time. Take care.